Benson stepped around me and opened a door, guiding me through a very familiar room. It wasn't as dark. The air, while no less stale, was less tainted, and I sighed out with a clear head. Does this mansion not have air conditioning? Do the secret rooms not have... Are they not hooked into the ventilation that the rest of the house is built? Like, I'm just...
Yeah, no. And if you open the doors to them, you unleash a 2,000-year-old mummy curse that's just been stagnating down there the whole time.
I'm just thinking about they're talking about the overwhelming smell of Oz's body as if it's like been locked in a closet and not like a lab, a type of room that you have very specific incentive to have ventilation built into. And this giant library, you would think would not have stale air. It's not a crypt. Like, it's part of the mansion that was there on purpose. Benson, why did we go there? What did Thanatos mean that you already knew who killed Oswin? He said nothing, closing the door behind him and ensuring that it was locked. As he turned to me, his voice was soft, quiet. There wasn't any sadness in it, just a lack of emotion entirely.
I have had my suspicions for a while now. Perhaps it's a lack of wanting to accept the truth, or lack of any evidence to back up my assumption. I can't say.
Wait, so you don't know? It's just, there's a conclusion you can draw? And Thanatos knows you know, but not in a way where you actually know. But if
I know you have. You have to realize that sounds better than kill that fuck Benson. He has a guess about who murdered Oswin.
Forgotten what he did to us?
But if we know who, then, or.
You know, one of the most important things to Oswin was, Dave.
We don't know Oswin. Medicine? Being a doctor?
The two character traits we know about Oswin.
Yeah, doctor and doctor again.
Family.
Well, he didn't bring up any family.
He did. He brought up his brother and his sister, but it was never really a positive thing. And then Benson also just said some like bad shit about his family. So how is family this big thing for him?
Oh, wait, isn't he estranged from his family?
Yeah.
Really? I don't think I ever would have gotten that given, you know.
He had an odd way of showing it, yes. Though I hold myself to blame for that. Granted, it's a wonder he didn't turn out worse. Mother and a father were too busy investing to pay mind to their own spawn. Or anything else for that matter. But Osmond loved him all the same.
I love to describe children like they're Zerg creep.
Fuck.
You can't. It's a wonder he didn't turn out worse is an interesting thing to say about a supposed great man.
A great man that you raised.
That you raised and also would die fulfilling the last wishes of.
An older brother that he idolized and an adopted sister that he loved as if she were his own flesh and blood all the same. He'd do anything for either of them, as much as they'd take advantage.
Take advantage how?
Oh, you see, the Hammond line occasionally gives way to, shall we say, gifted individuals. As it so happens, all three of them had this, well, gift.
Well, technically, the Hammond line wouldn't produce the gifted individual if we're talking about, like, the special genetics of this family, because there's an adopted sister here. So what you're just saying is that the Hammond people are actually pretty good at raising kids. Yeah, they raise exceptional children.
They have affluenza. But Florencia was adopted. You just said so.
Indeed. Her aptitude was something that attracted her as a potential rival for the other two. Not the best reason to adopt a child, but her and Reginald got on quite well.
Getting adopted by Professor Oak. just to be a rival to Gary. And Oswin?
Well, once upon a time, he was a bright-eyed and enthusiastic young man. The lack of attention he got from his siblings outside the times they needed him to further their own pursuits didn't seem to bother him all that much.
What happened? I'm going to have an aneurysm if this conversation results in him saying that one of these people killed Oz. Because we just, like, every story beat is establishing another character. Like, since Oz died, one, like, we had, like, a week and a half to establish motives and characters, and then we killed a character. And then if you're going to have a murder mystery about the character, you then would be like, okay, well, then who did it out of these people? And of course, we immediately were like, well, none of these people have any motivation. Like, there's nothing to go on here. And then they're like, and here's Thanatos, and here's Jack, and here's Memphis, and here's whichever one of the siblings they're saying may have murdered him. And I'm like, okay, well, one, you just keep introducing more characters that might have killed him after he's already dead. But also, we're still not following up on any of these threads. We're just adding more. We're just stacking characters now after a narrative was a ship in a bottle for 2 weeks. Benson sighed, shaking his head. He ran a hand through his fur before straightening his tie.
I'm sure he told you about the medical trial.
I think I understand. It's the ghosts of all of the dead children. All of the Hendrix victims have come back to kill him.
Good, but you also understand why I was reluctant in my guesses. Reginald is dead. Florencia, well, bigger problems if she's currently here, although there's very little chance she's around. At least I would have assumed as such until now.
There's also Oz's childhood friend who died in a well and he imagines as a dog. But would she kill Oswin? He's her brother.
I'm not the best one to ask this question, Dave. The very notion of killing someone isn't as taboo to me as it would be for you.
That's an insane sentence.
I've murdered plenty of people. It's quite fun, actually.
That's like...
It's all very droll.
Like, unless your point is that Benson's like a straight-up psychopath or something, it's just like a very strange thing to say about your character. Like, I know he's an assassin, but he also, like, raised Oz and grew up, like, spent decades with his family, and he's like killing people isn't as taboo to me is one, a weird thing to say about it, even if you're an assassin, but also just a bizarre comment when we're asking for a fucking character read. We're asking for a character witness, Benson, not whether you would have killed Oz. How can you just... I was stunned, looking between the ground, the door we had just come through, and back at Benson. The thought was just so foreign, I didn't know how to process it. How can you be so impersonal about it?
No, boy. It's always personal.
Then that sentence makes less sense.
Murder is nothing but the most personal thing you could do to an individual. That's funny. That's a funny thing to say.
I just... There's just so much to unpack about that insane sentence, but it also just completely destroys the claim about the sister. Like, what? His response to the sister question just made no sense, even more so now. Okay, fine, but just... I whined, thinking back to everything I've seen in the vault thus far. Every death that I'd stopped, and what kind of person would just do that to the people I cared about.
What is it, Dave?
I feel like we've lost track of things, Benson. I'm 18. I don't know anyone in this story. Who killed Oswin?
The only person it could be would be...
He trailed off, coming to a realization, eyes wide open for a brief moment before he settled on me.
Someone else shall have to deal with personally.
Yet again, we are not responding to a very important piece of information that could be communicated to everyone.
Just an aggressive amount of never learning anything, but what realization did he have, I wonder? Because, like, it couldn't have been the person because we already established that he already had a specific person in mind.
Roswell.
It was always Roswell.
It must be Roswell.
That's not fair. We're in danger and you figured it out. Why won't you tell me?
Because there's my pound of flesh to retrieve. Here's my family and I will see this done.
No, fuck you. Fuck you, asshole. No, shut the fuck up.
Who is your family? The murderer or Oz?
I don't care. I don't care what the answer is because that's a bad answer.
No, yeah, because it's like actively like you're the one that keeps involving us in everything and wasting our time and getting us freaked out and giving us an emotional crisis, and then you keep not telling us anything every step of the way.
Do not worry, this shall not put any of you and yours in danger, of that I promise.
I already had to save the timeline like 4 times. So what am I meant to do now? Wait, I had questions for you.
And by all means, you're welcome to ask away.
If this puts up a fucking text box.
I was about to say, in this text box. First, thank you for saving me from him, but why are you back?
You could say a gut feeling. While I did take the day off, it was merely to fulfill my promise to Oswin. In truth, it's much more than that. He made me swear to keep you safe prior to that. No matter what happens, you had to be the one to survive this month.
But why me? I hadn't met him before I arrived and just... He was that willing to throw everything into keeping me alive? What about the others? Or his own family?
I'm afraid the true answer to that question died with him.
Then guess.
Perhaps he saw in you a son of sorts.
I didn't fucking know him. I talked to him once.
Or perhaps something else.
Or because I could use the vault. I sighed out, scratching my neck.
You sighed out. You sighed out again.
Always. Just Control F, sighed out. My eyes were still slowly getting used to the dark. But unless I was going to be laying in bed, I'd much rather have been somewhere with more light. I think I'm done for tonight. Just... I don't know what's going to happen now.
Well, I would assume you'd head to bed, because that's all you do, Dave. You have 2 conversations and then sleep every day. Leave Oswin to me.
It's like you're working on your social links. If you're sure, I'm sorry that he died.
Thank you, Dave. Granted, if this haunts you at all, please come seek me out. Chances are you're still in shock over seeing the body.
It's a good thing I brought you to the body for no reason, to then not show you anything and not have you observe anything. And really, there was just 0 reason you had to be on this trip. but I re-traumatized you for funsies.
If you're haunted by the fact that you're sleeping overnight in a mansion with a murderer that's trying to kill you, and there's a dead body here we haven't called the police to talk about, please come speak to me, someone you know once was employed as a contract killer.
Anyway, everyone should just continue to sleep in separate rooms every night, which are soundproofed for some reason. That's a great response to the murder that has happened. I don't really know what I'm feeling anymore. Yesterday made that very confusing. Nodding slowly to myself, I broke away from Benson and headed up to my room. There really wasn't going to be much in the way of answers I could get from tonight, mainly because no one will ever tell you anything ever. Or if there was, I couldn't consciously think of the questions after hearing that Benson knew of the culprit behind Oswald's murder. All I could do was push it to the back of my mind and have faith that he'd handle it. I had enough on my plate as it was. Do you... What? What else is happening? It's like there's at most two things.
Keith, I think the answer's nothing, Keith. I think nothing's happening.
Is the answer Sal?
I think they're just writing. I think they're writing a thing. I think they're just writing the words.
It very much does feel like a thing where you write out a sentence on autopilot. Like that's just a thing you would say, like around now after that scene. But you have to have established things that are on his plate for that to be true. Because most of his plate is just feelings, like his dad's dead, and he might have a thing with Sal, which seems like low stakes given what's happening right now. So his plate is basically just Osmond was murdered, and Jack is also here, who may or may not be the murderer, and has also tried to murder him, which is pretty much the same topic overall. Setting that aside, the plate's empty. That's an empty plate. I know he doesn't mean the fucking coin game because he doesn't remember it. He forgot about that on day 4. Closing the door behind me, I collapsed onto it with a sigh. Things were looking up, right? We were making progress with everyone, knowing stuff, and I was getting some answers too, as much as it was draining. Answers? How dare you? How dare you say we're getting answers? If anything, though, I wish I had the capacity to just figure it all out. So many things were just missing, and I didn't know how these puzzle pieces were meant to fit together. It was a good thing I wasn't a detective. It had been a long day, so as I stared at my bed, as if it were an old friend.
That line just struck me as funny. It's a good thing I'm not a detective. You're not telling me. Jeez.
Yeah. Don't worry, Dave. Cops don't solve murders. Ready to lay down and black out for a bit. Something felt off. A dull throb somewhere in the back of my head was hinting that something was wrong. If what had happened up until now in this point was any indication, I knew I should at least try and do something about it. About his throbbing in his head.
Is this when the little bombs implanted in his skull go off?
I was tired, but I felt responsible for trying to intervene in whatever bad thing may happen. It was the only thing guiding me forward towards the basement and the vault beyond. Wait. Does Dave normally have a headache when someone dies? Is that a thing that we know?
That's requiring a prescience of detail that I just have not. I have not maintained.
I don't. I know he visits the vault periodically, just kind of on a whim, basically. I don't think he was drawn there by headaches, and I don't think he gets a headache whenever someone dies. I think he just happens to come across a body, and then be like, oh fuck, and then he experiences a bad end. And then he time travels back to a password gate to put in the password. And that just happens on its own.
That's possible. But have you considered this is now fact?
Yeah, this is now the thing that was always true.
This has happened the whole time and you just didn't notice it.
Yeah, this is that season of Buffy where she has a sister suddenly. That was always here. As my foot hit the bottom step, I froze, feeling the ground itself vibrate. A deep rumbling before the sound of a large explosion sounded from somewhere far off. What? Clinging to the railing, I look around, frantic to see if the roof was coming down on us. The next thing I heard was everyone rushing into the foyer to see what had happened.
What happened?
It sounded like an earthquake.
That wasn't an earthquake. There'd be a lot more shaking and a lot less noise.
I know I'm off topic here, but I do keep looking at their pants every single time they show up. And there's just some distracting details. Like, Orlando has a huge bulge. Sal very noticeably has pants that strangely sag as if they don't actually cling to his body and he's physically holding them up with his hands because of the way that they sag down as if they're loose, then they don't fit.
Yeah.
And then fucking Roswell's just smuggling hog. Like, that is such a specifically like down one pant leg bulge that's like, holy shit, man. and these are just looming. These are just looming details every time any character shows up. And I don't comment on them often, but I do look at that. I do think about it all the time. The very specific details. One of my most amusing details is that sometimes you get characters in this game where the only shading is on their pants. And that's the only shading. Their body is unshaded. And like, huh. Roswell helped me to my feet, and I turned to 3 of them. Is everyone okay? I know I said everyone's here, but only 3 of you are here.
Us 3 are fine, at least. You?
Stumbled a little, but fine. I turned to the other 3 who were looking just as alarmed, but otherwise fine. It's important to show up in, like, VN roster-oriented people. on similar terms, like, Ty is a lot here. Ty has a sheath, clearly, and it's just poking straight up, but also he still has the weirdly saggy pants that seem to be falling off of him, where I don't understand how his elastic cable works. Dean is just normal, and Haas apparently sleeps in just the skinniest jeans known to man. Like, they are accordioning on his legs intensely, but they're also like slacks, like khakis or whatever. What do you call them? A fucking they're like office attire. They're like button up, smooth, not jeans, but also not like basketball shorts or anything. Anyway, this has been the crotch review, and you're all shirtless. I mean, fine. Dave expressed interest in men.
It's funny. It's funny.
Honestly rare.
Gay, where it's funny.
I mean, it's weird timing, but it's also like interesting to think how rarely Dave is physically attracted to men. Good to know you're fine. Just about ready for bed before we all heard it, I'm guessing.
I'm not the only one assuming that was an explosion, right?
No shit. Why is someone blowing something up now? You're not wondering why an explosion at all? But we're all safe, right? So who? I trailed off, realization dawning on me. It wasn't Jack that had set off the explosion, had he? That's not grammar. The sound, I'm not even gonna correct it. That was just wrong. The sound I heard made me flinch. And Haas... That technically makes sense. It throws me. The sound I heard made me flinch, and Haas cower slightly nearby. Along with it came the distinctive clack of Benson's shoes on tile as he came to stand with the rest of us. Shitter's clogged.
Is everything all right?
He looked at each of us in turn as he checked his gun was loaded before settling his eyes on the front door. What was that, anyway?
It sounded like someone's getting creative with explosives. Worry not. I intend to find out what the nature of that was specifically.
Is that wise?
Right, yeah.
Worry not. I shouldn't be too long. All things considered, I wouldn't dare consider leaving the house without being armed anyway.
He looked at me, stern. I gulped and nodded slowly, wondering if this was all part of what he'd been saying about getting his pound of flesh, or if this was potentially dealing with Jack still out in the woods. Part of me hoped both things were the same. What should we do, like, in the meantime?
Everyone stick together. Bunker up in the kitchen, or somewhere you all feel safe, and wait for me to return.
That's not what you do. That's not how you're supposed to respond to AoE attacks. With that, he rushed out the door with gun in hand, and door swinging closed behind him. Didn't think you could mention, like, a bomb-proof location somewhere in the building?
Okay, everything's fine. It was an It was an explosion, Roswell. Oh wait, this is Haas speaking. I thought he was justifying it to himself.
It was an explosion, Roswell.
As far as we know, it could have been anything from a lightning strike or an earthquake or...
And then after it's established what happened, he's gonna be like, I knew all along that it was an explosion, I just didn't want to tell anyone.
Well, I guess it's being a little hopeful that it was just a controlled blast in a nearby mine.
There are mines to these mountains?
I want to make Roswell, I want to give him a swirly. Like, I want to put his head in the toilet and flush it.
Just being contrarian at this point.
Sorry, no, I mean, I don't know. That's what the hopeful part was.
Do we just stay here? I looked at the other three, finding them all muttering to one another, all looking troubled. What do you guys think? You're the Lord's men.
So long as we all stay together, it's fine, right?
We shouldn't need to have another bunk up, but it's an option. Are you planning on sleeping right now? Bit early to be deciding that. Might have more problems than just lack of sleep. Well, yeah, I guess that's fair. We make coffee or tea while we wait? Or even just move to the kitchen? Do you consider the kitchen to be a safe location?
Benson said he shouldn't be too long. If we start splitting up or moving about, that's only going to cause problems if scary movies are anything to go by.
I base all my logic on scary movies. I am the media savvy insert. Sal had a point, and a few of us parked out ourselves on the stairs to keep watching the front door. There was nothing to tell us how long he'd been gone, or how much longer he'd be. For me, though, I kept my ears trained for the sound of a gunshot or any other sign that things weren't going well, such as the police sirens happening in Keith's background right now. There's nothing.
I did hear the sirens for the first time that you've ever mentioned them. I could hear them.
You never heard them before?
No, every single time you're like, something's going on outside. I'm like, can't hear it. Can't hear nothing.
Yeah, it's always iffy what doesn't get picked up. Earlier the dogs were just flipping out, and I'm just like silently ignoring it. I'm like maybe it's not picking up. But I get enough sirens nearby and motorcycles that oftentimes when I don't say anything about them, other people in chat bring them up, and I'm like, nah, it's just me. Or those exciting times where Andrew has gunshots. Remember when he suggested I move into his area? It throws me off that he's like, there's no way to know how long he's been gone. I'm like, this room screams, I have a clock here. There's a clock in this room. Look at it. Look at this room. It has a clock. It definitely has a clock. As time ticked by, hearing nothing shy of the faint groaning of the house, my worry grew that Benson might not be coming back at all. If that was the case, then we had some hard decisions to make. Before I knew it, though, the front door opened again. We all stood the moment we heard the handle turn, assuming the worst, but sure enough.
I have some grave news to deliver.
I almost read that as great news and was like, hell yeah.
Good news, everyone. How bad is it? Benson put his gun away and stroked his mustache, looking at each of us in turn.
There's no positive spin I can put on this, so I'll say it plainly. The road that heads to the mountain is no more.
Okay.
Finally! It's been 2 weeks, and finally this is actually a closed location. At least in that there's a reason we can't leave. Although I don't know how you unmake the road. Which part of the road? I mean, I guess the cliffside road that's after the driveway? Did he go all the way down there?
Possible.
Gone? How?
The explosion, Sal. Are you sure? Maybe you just didn't see it properly on account of...
I assure you, a combination of a landslide and likely what we all heard before thoroughly destroying a large section of the road.
What?
Huh. Yeah, actually, I have no idea what that's meant to be communicating at all.
A combination of a landslide and likely what we all heard before thoroughly destroyed. Oh, a combination of the landslide and the explosion.
Yeah.
Which is like, one, grammatically, the part that refers to the explosion is really confusing to parse, but also, presumably, the explosion caused the landslide, so saying them in that order is even more confusing. Because you would say a combination of what we heard before and the ensuing landslide. But there's just like a lack of connecting the points and implying cause and effect, or even continuity of like the order in which things happened, even. That's a disaster of a sentence. But how are we meant to get home? Will we be able to eventually, like, damage that bad? I mean, eventually. I don't think you're gonna die in this building at the age of 80, but...
Bones are out. The road is gone. Someone really doesn't want us leaving.
That all cut out.
Oh.
Someone really doesn't want us leaving, do they?
I think the gimmick voices are getting noise gated at some point.
It's because I was coughing.
Yeah. This raises new questions. As a joke, my response was
It
going
does
to be,
indeed.
yeah, the author doesn't want you leaving. But why do the villains not want the people that are in their way to leave? Like, what's the point of trapping people here? Cutting the phone makes sense because you don't want them calling out and getting help. But if they leave, then it's like, all right, we're good. They're gone. Fuck them.
Well, you don't. I guess they don't want them to call to contact the cops when they're out of here too.
Is this?
Keith, it makes sense, Keith. Okay.
It makes sense. It makes perfect sense.
Don't question the plot, Keith.
Don't question the plot. Just stare at the bulge. Is this my fault?
No, of course not.
Don't take this the wrong way, Dave, but you literally don't know or have done anything. Right. This is just...
No, Dave, you're an idiot.
Orlando sighed, rubbing his finger through his mane. I don't know what this is.
Wow, we're so shocked by that.
Well, all things considered, there's not much we can do about it now. And given the time and lack of light, there's no safety to be had investigating it right now. It will need to wait till morning.
What are we meant to do? Just go to bed and pretend nothing was wrong?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Regrettably, that's exactly what I'm proposing. Partner up if you need be for the comfort of safety in numbers. I
think everyone should
something.
sleep in the same room. There's a murderer out and a bomb. He stroked his mustache again, thinking things over. I had a feeling I knew what he'd say before he came out with it.
It stands to reason that someone should keep watch, and that person makes sense to be me. We can't ask that of you. We should take turns.
We should swap out the person that actually can defend themselves and has an idea what to look out for or what even is happening with random people that are just like guessing.
And what would you mean to do? I'm the only one currently armed, and given our potential assailant, it'd be best if someone trained were to deal with the problem should it arise.
But you need to sleep at some point, right? He flashed a tired smile before shaking his head gently.
When you've lived as long as I have, you find yourself needing less sleep in the interest of enjoying what time you have left.
That's not why. Old people do just sleep less, but that's not it. It's not a lifestyle choice. Dean and Tyson nodded to each other, seemingly sold on Benson's choice before heading upstairs. Oh, well, it makes sense to me. I've never heard of old people. Roswell was soon behind them, looking thoughtful. Then Haas, after he gave Benson a careful look. Are you really sure?
I don't really mind staying up if need be.
It's not easy to kill a crocodile.
Do not worry about me. I have things I need to attend to anyway. This just gives me a chance to do that, and it won't impact keeping you all safe.
How are you going to attend to something and keep watch? I'll be keeping watch from inside the vault, which I have locked behind me for safety. Sal reluctantly nodded and made to leave, pausing to take Orlando by the hand until he was following him upstairs of his own accord. The moment they were out of sight, I turned to Benson, keeping my voice low. Benson, are you sure you're up for this?
Why wouldn't I be?
Well, earlier, and Oswin?
While that wound is still fresh, I promise you that it won't impact what priorities I have. No more blood shall be spilled on my watch. I cannot afford it.
Okay. I understand.
You
Giving
do,
Benson
Dave?
one...
That's shocking.
I don't know.
The first time for everything.
He understands and that he doesn't know anything. And he understands the nothing. Giving Benson one last look, I headed upstairs, hoping that he'd be alright. Welcome to the Benson ending 2. I wanted to head to bed, just to lay down and get some sleep, but I found myself going on autopilot towards a different room instead. When I entered, though, it was quiet and empty. Neatly folded clothes set beside his bag on the floor, his bed folded back, ready for whoever was meant to sleep in it. His bed folded back? Bedding?
Bedding.
Yeah. Someone's folding their bed? Like the mattress? Sal? Wandering over to his bed, I sat down with a sigh, figuring he'd taken Orlando to his room and was trying to settle him down. He was like a brother to him after all, so if he was upset, well... Wordlessly, he entered his room, closing the door gently behind him.
Ready for bed?
I don't think I'm going to be sleeping much tonight.
I'll believe that when I see it, Dave.
The road's out, everything's only getting worse, and just... I feel so powerless.
I wouldn't say powerless, just unfortunately involved in what's going on.
In a way in which you have no power and are stuck experiencing whatever the outcome may come, which you cannot affect, almost like you are devoid of power.
Even then, I think sometimes life throws curveballs like this.
This is a bit more than a curveball.
A little tiny bit more than a curveball. Just a little small one.
Yeah.
A small ball.
Oh no, my tire's flat and I've been targeted by the mafia. What's going to happen next? I don't know, man. Press A a lot. Sal wandered closer to the bed, placing a hand on my shoulder.
First, you're gonna get in that bed and get comfortable.
And then?
Then I'll also get in that bed and get comfortable.
Jeez.
It's not much, but if it'll help you sleep, you're welcome to stay. I know I'd sleep better with you around.
But why? Are you scared as well? I got under the covers, already having decided that this was where I was going to spend the night.
I wouldn't say scared, but concerned, definitely.
There's not really much... Oop. My brain's shutting down.
But there's not really much we can do about that till morning.
He doubled back to turn off the lights before climbing into bed with me and stretching out, his joints cracking a little bit as he yawned. You sound more tired than anything else.
I suppose I am, but I'm glad we had our chat today.
Carefully, he took my hand in his and gave it a gentle squeeze. Our chat was that I dumped on you about my sister being experimented on, and then we watched anime and remembered the plot was happening. He turned and faced me, flashing me a warm smile.
It's moments like these that really make me feel at peace. They feel right.
I too feel most at peace when I'm threatened with death. I returned the smile and squeezed his hand back, finding myself yawning immediately after. Yeah. Rolling me closer to him, Sal cradled me close beside him. Whoops. Not on top of him like before, but against his front, while he lay on his side as if he were a wall between me and the... You could just say spooning. There's a long paragraph for spooning. Half of the description made me less sure of what I was reading. You think these are going to be better in the morning? He shifted a little, bumping the end of his snout against my forehead and leaving it there.
I know they will. In the meantime, sleep, Dave.
You too, Sal. Cuddling into him a little closer, I soon found myself falling asleep to the soft rumbling coming from his chest. Until the next explosion struck.
We made it to another day.
We did it. Day 15 is vanquished until the password sends us back.